absolutely to rank or not to rank. And I'll start with the ladies' introduction. On my right, Bernice Kisuli, who is the director at Chestnut Schools, and there's Dr. Catherine Mutisia, who's a psychiatrist. She'll be telling us how that impacts on students, knowing that there's really no need to compete. On my left, we start with Honorable Jacob Masharia, who's a Molo Member of Parliament and also a member of the Education Committee in the National Assembly. And my farthest left, there's Dr. John Mugos, the education expert on Uwezo, Kenya. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to NTV tonight.
Thank you. Thank you.
For the first time in our history, schools' results were released without ranking of students or even the schools themselves. Was this justified? Let's start with the ladies as gentlemen. Madam.
I think for the time I have been a teacher, it's the first time that we have not had ranking, and it was very surprising to all of us because as far as I'm concerned as a teacher, when children are ranked and schools are ranked, districts are ranked or counties, it brings in competition, healthy competition, which helps everybody to do their best. This does not necessarily mean that if, for example, I'm not able to get an A, I'm not going to be ranked, but I'll be very motivated, very excited when I achieve the goal that I have set. So for me, ranking has to stay.
Dr. Catherine, do you agree it kills healthy competition?
Okay, not really, because when it comes to motivation, you can have either extrinsic motivation coming from outside and intrinsic motivation coming from within. And I would love a situation where every child in Kenya actually knows that they have good self-esteem and they can actually motivate themselves. That means that if I'm an A student, then I do not need to be compared with other people to be able to achieve that A. If I'm a C student, then I know I will get my C and I don't necessarily have to get an A. I wouldn't say ranking is wrong per se, but I would also want to say that the way we've done it in the past, we've had children's self-esteem being affected. And again, when we rank, are we comparing schools with better facilities with schools with poor facilities? Again, are we saying that we wait a child to go from class 1, pre-primary, from class 1 up to class 8, then we rank them at class 8 and we celebrate those who have passed and those who have failed, we look down upon them? To me, I would say let's have clear assessments right from pre-primary, the kindergarten level. Let's have a system of evaluating children continuously, and so that children can also reach their potential. Those who are technical can actually reach their potential. We can identify their talents. Those who are academic, we can also identify their academic strengths.
So then you're saying our system of education should change as a whole?
Yes, yes.
And wait for.
Yes.
All right, let me bring this to Jacob Kamenyi, Honorable Jacob Masharia. Let me get that right.
Well, it's not Kamenyi.
Yeah. You're a member of the Education Committee.
I'm in the Education Committee in Parliament.
Yeah. What is the justification for stopping the ranking in schools?
Well, I will start with saying that the motive of all this is good. Because we see in other countries in Europe, they don't rank. But Kenya, our education system where we are right now, we are not ready to stop ranking students and to stop promoting competition. And I would like to say we need to continue ranking. And the decision by the minister, because it's important for all of us to know the minister made the decision alone. I am in the Education Committee. I worked yesterday to release of the examination, K.C.P.E, as a stranger, because I didn't know what he was going to do. He has not consulted on this, and he gave reasons. And I'm happy because he detailed them 1, 2 to 11 and called them the demerits. And he didn't tell Kenyans what are the merits of ranking. And the reasons he gave, because it's good for Kenyans also to know them, and they were done on TV and radio and everywhere. Actually, they were not reasons. They were excuses. The Ministry of Education has failed in all those things they said. The issue of students being forced to repeat is a directive. The issue of students being registered in other schools somewhere in the bush, if they are not clever, there are directives on that. The issue of tuition, there's a directive. The ministry has failed to actually implement the directive. Yeah. So the decision of coming once and saying we are not going to rank. I am in Parliament, I'm a politician. private schools, they are here, they were not consulted. NAT was not consulted. Where did this decision come from?
I spoke to Dr. Kilemi Mwire yesterday, and he said they actually consulted a wide range of people. And as much as NAT says they were not consulted, he mentioned that they were actually consulted. But before we get into that, Dr. Mugo, let me get your reactions on this.
Well,
should we have stopped ranking?
I think my position is very clear, that we had reached a situation in Kenya where the exam was driving the system. And we know that we need to reinstore the position of the curriculum. Now, the extreme which we had reached required very radical measures where some people will not be happy. But those that are not happy, for sure, are defending the position because they are standing with the 0.64% that we had yesterday, who scored over 400 marks. So who is for the 99.36%? When we see students being carried shoulder high because they perform very well, how many are they? So I think we need to go back to where we came from. What is the purpose of our education? Is it only for the 1% cognitively gifted children, or is it a holistic education for the nation? When we rank, if ranking was that good historically, then the quality of education would be good. But we are struggling with a system that has failed our children. I think we need to get back and see how can each child, if ranking was to be inclusive, then it would be acceptable. But our ranking is very exclusive. It's serving a small proportion of children. And whoever benefits from ranking, I went through that system where from standard 1, you are told whether you are number 1 or number 80. I benefited because I was at the top. But those of us who are always in number 82, 82, 82, and you know, given what they are gifted at, we have different intelligences. So highlighting only one intelligence and saying that our system of education in Kenya is only about this one intelligence is a big mistake. And I'm glad that we are now coming to discuss this. Had we not abolished ranking, we would not be here discussing. So I think a new era has begun, and we are discussing how can we fix our education so that we can focus on learning.
Let's take a look at the psychological effect of this, because like you mentioned, ranking and you're above the first 10, then it means it was to your advantage. It then motivates students to work even harder. Let's take a psychological bit from you, Dr. Catherine. How does this impact on the student psychology, knowing that whether I work hard or not, I'm not even going to be ranked anyway? So even that number 1 student who's there, let him just get his number 1 and I'm fine where I am. What is the psychological effect of not being ranked?
If we are going to get our students and pupils reasoning that way, then it means there's something we are doing wrong, either at the school or at home. Because a child needs to know when they go to school, why is it important to work hard and reach their potential? Not to say that because I'm not going to be ranked, there's no position 1 and position 2, then there's no need of me working hard. Each child needs to know that I should work well, I should work hard and reach my potential. And that means different things to different children. For those who are an A material, and the teachers actually know, they would tell, this is an A student, this is a B student, this is a C student. They'll actually, even the parents are able to tell from when the children are very young. Parents are also able to tell those children who are struggling. So it's upon every parent, every teacher to actually put the right self-esteem in every child so that the child can know, I don't work to be given a position. I work because I need to reach my potential. I need to be able to follow the career I want in my life. And so whether there's ranking or not, I need to pass. And at the end of the term, I should be able to see, I got a B. Could I have gotten an A? Or I got a C, could I have gotten a B? Then the next time I look at if I got a B and this time I have an A, then I've improved. So that you compete with yourself. You're not competing necessarily with the other person. I know there are places where such ranking occurs, but again, their education system is sensitive to the fact that every talent is recognized. Those who are good in technical subjects is also recognized. But in Kenya, we're having situations where we give up every other subjects for the academics. And so for the majority who are not very good in academics, then they lose out. And even their self-esteem is affected. Personally, I've treated many children with anxiety, especially in levels 7, 8. Parents who are very anxious when they are waiting for the results. We know very well there's a lot of cheating. As much as we are saying that is a failure, it is there with us. Schools are cheating so that they can be seen to be posting the best results because they are going to be ranked. as much as we are saying that is a failure, then it is there with us. We need to discuss and see what is causing this cheating.
Now that you brought up cheating, Madam Banis, I'm going to ask you this because you're the school's director. Are you involved in unethical actions just because you're being ranked? Is that one of the reasons?
You see, if I recall well, in about 2006, 2009, there were two reports that were compiled by the quality assurance on schools that were cheating all over the country, and they were mentioned by name. Schools that had good practices as far as the national exams were also mentioned, and the report even went to the extent of giving names of teachers who got exams from wherever, whichever police station, and they were supposed to head to a certain center, and they were directed to go to some other place where probably children who are weak were registered. So it is true, and the government knows that there are institutions that are involved in cheating. For example, we see in papers schools that excel, as it were, in quotes, in K.C.P.E. But you realize that these numbers do not grow. That is not the natural occurrence. Whether it is a supermarket or it is a business, when it is excelling, it grows. Why is it that those schools that were even mentioned in that report do not grow? Why is it that the numbers remain at around 22? The reason is that they register the cream in those institutions, and then the other children are registered in a different center. So for me, the government needs to address those issues, lack of integrity in our institutions. Because you see, what are we planting in the children? Because as a head of an institution, if I'm training children how to cheat, I'm creating a generation of people that will never be honest. So I think as institutions, as the Ministry of Education, we really need to decide what we want for our nation, what we want out of this education system. Because we cannot have wrong practices, training children to do the wrong things, and then expect them to be good workers. That is why, for example, we have corruption in Kenya, because we have gone through the system and we have, as it were, we have been shown it is okay, you will succeed by not being honest. So we really need to address that. And the government should play a key part, because there's no point of compiling a report and telling us this was the wrong that occurred and do nothing about it.
Honorable Jacob, now that you're being put on the spot here, was this just a ploy for the government to have an excuse of not having a level field in terms of education sector? Does this give the private institutions an advantage? Is the government just getting an excuse for not having a level playing field? They say that the private schools sometimes have better resources and the public schools are not well equipped.
Okay, having worked in schools, various schools in this country, actually I'm a teacher. And I've also worked in the publishing sector. I've worked in schools that are in bad-off areas, in Turkana, in Kajiado, and everywhere. It is true that there are some schools that are lacking. It is also true that there are some private schools that are also lacking. Some private schools are in far-off places where there are mabati structures. They are not better off than the primary schools around there. So the issue of this thing started when they started saying, or the system started saying, the private school students will not access national schools. Remember that saga where they were not being given priority because they're private schools, they were, and all this. I do not see that as a government policy that we want to make the level playing ground not fair, because this is the doing of the minister himself. The Minister of Education, the CS for Education, this was his decision with the technocrats that we have at Jogo House. And I can tell you, for those technocrats, most of them have failed in what they are doing, and the issue that now they brought the issue of not ranking. The only way we are able to assess our teachers and evaluate them is through ranking. Like now, if you go to Western countries where they don't rank students, the teachers are motivated to teach. But I'll give you a scenario: a school in maybe Mashuru, which is far off in Kajiado, where the teacher, first of all, wants to go on transfer. He doesn't like the place. Number 2, he has been denied the transfer for the last 15 years. Number 3, there's issues of hardship, no pension, there are pension issues. The salary is meager. Then when you don't rank, he can equally not teach. Because now how do we know that that school in Mashuru was the last in Kajiado or the last in Kenya? And once we know that this school was the last, parents, they all come and say, we are not happy, and action is taken.
Yeah, speaking of parents, then I'll go to you, Dr. Muga. As we finish this, we really are running out of time here. How then do parents know which school to take their students? First of all,
parents need to be educated on what education is all about. Education is about teasing out the potential and achieving the fullest potential of every human being in this country. So it is not about being number one. It is about you achieving an A, if that's your fullest potential, a C if that's your fullest potential, going to the nationals in music festivals if that's your fullest potential, being the best poet if that's the best potential. Let parents not be narrow-minded, and that's what our exam led us to, believing that mean score is everything in life. I can bear witness that none of us is seated around here because we got an A in K.C.P.E. It is about character. It is about other things, holistic human development. And that is what, for a parent to determine a good school, it is not about mean score. It is about that school that develops your child to the fullest. So I think parents need to look beyond. Parents need to know that PE is important. They need to know that music is important, drama is important. All those things are important. And if ranking can consider all these things, then it would be acceptable because it will be inclusive. But if it is only about A.
Just one last thing. How is the quality of education in Kenya today? I'll let you have a say on that in just a bit as we finish. How is the quality of teaching today in Kenya?
The quality is very poor. We heard yesterday that over 50% did not achieve 250 marks. I have said before that children are finishing class 8 without being able to read and do math at class 2 level. We heard that there are a certain percentage who did not even achieve 50 marks. So this is predictable from very early. We don't need to rank to know that students will fail. We need to go back and see the foundation. What is it that we need to do different for us to have different results? We cannot continue with the same normal business.
Jack, how is the quality of teaching today in Kenya, in your opinion? You've been a teacher before. What do you think?
As a trained teacher, the quality of delivery of education is not up to standard because the teacher is faced by very many challenges. As I said here, issues of salaries, issues of pension, issues of remuneration, issues of resources, and the quality is improving. And that is why I said from the word go, we need ranking so that we can continue awarding and rewarding teachers and students and schools until such a level where, because the issue of not ranking, as I said, I will say it again, it's not that it's bad, it's not that it's a very bad thing, it's only that we are not there. In terms of our education structure, our education system, we are not there. We need to continue ranking so that we can continue rewarding until such a level where our teachers are motivated to deliver.
All right, Dr. Catherine.
For me, I would advocate for a situation where each parent demanded that there is parent-teacher interaction every term. So you've done the term, there's a meeting for the parent and the teacher. My child got a C or a D. Why did they get a D? Is it that they cannot get a C? Is it that they cannot get an A? And if my son has been getting an A and this time they got a B, what happened? So that when you have those discussions every term, you don't wait for class 8. So if we were to have those discussions every term, what is the potential of my child? What can I do or what can he do to make sure he moves to the next level without necessarily saying, was my son number 1 or was he number last? Yes, that is what I would want to see.
Very briefly as we wind up.
I think the quality of education varies from one institution to another, because it all depends on the commitment, sometimes even of an individual teacher. There are teachers who will not sleep if a child in their class does not know how to read. But there are teachers who will go to farm while they are supposed to be teaching. So it is not even.
All right. Thank you very much for making time. That's all the time we have. That was Honorable Jacob Macharia, Member of Parliament, Molo, Dr. John Muga, Education Expert from Uwezo, Kenya, Banis Kisuli, who's the Chestnut Schools Director, and also Dr. Catherine Mutisi, who's a psychiatrist, joining us live on NTV tonight. We're just trying to decipher the whole ranking situation, and obviously there's a lot more to talk about. We'll get them back on at some time later on. For now, we're taking a short break here on NTV tonight.